Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're basically running an elite masterclass specifically designed for you.
Yeah, for our Russian-speaking professionals who are, ready to level up your business English.
Exactly, and absolutely ace that international job interview.
We have a super highly curated stack of sources on the table for you today, too.
Oh, totally. We are looking at elite idiom guides, some really advanced corporate communication texts, and this is my favorite part, a remarkably revealing transcribed dialogue.
Right, that dialogue is between senior HR specialist, Olga, and this brilliantly qualified but incredibly nervous candidate named Ivan.
And the mission for our analysis today is incredibly specific. We're breaking down what it actually takes to survive and thrive in an interview at a global giant like Google.
Because we're bypassing the basic grammar lessons today. Surviving that corporate gauntlet, it isn't about memorizing the dictionary.
No, not at all.
It is about understanding the hidden psychology of the room.
Right. So imagine this scenario. You've made it to the final round. You're sitting in a glass-walled conference room in Silicon Valley, or, maybe staring down a panel of executives on a high-stakes video call.
Sounds stressful already.
Right. And the interviewer leans in and asks a complex, multi-layered question. Suddenly, the pressure drops. The culture shock hits you.
Yeah, that's when the freeze happens.
Exactly. Despite knowing your industry inside and out, your brain completely freezes because you realize they aren't just testing your English, they are testing your cultural fluency.
And that moment of freeze, it's the ultimate barrier for countless international candidates.
Oh, absolutely.
The vocabulary suddenly feels like totally insufficient because the underlying expectations of the conversation are just entirely foreign.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we even touch the elite vocabulary hidden in these sources, we have to address the massive cultural gap between Eastern and Western corporate expectations.
Yeah, we really do.
The communication texts we are analyzing, they refer to this modern phenomenon as the narrative interview.
Which is huge. Western HR departments have, they've largely abandoned that basic checkbox style of interviewing.
Right, the whole what are your weaknesses kind of checklist.
Exactly. They don't just want a recitation of your resume or a list of your daily tasks. They are hunting for a story.
They want a narrative.
Right. They want to uncover the narrative of how you handle failure, how you navigate complex team dynamics, and, how you drive innovation.
And communicating those concepts requires a much more emotional, real-life command of English than anyone ever learns from a standard textbook.
Which brings us directly to what the sources call the results-oriented language gap.
This is a massive stumbling block.
It really is. A lot of Russian speakers, based on traditional educational models, are taught to describe their professional lives by saying, like, I worked on or I participated in.
Yeah, it is a deeply task-oriented mindset, and it's often rooted in a real cultural appreciation for humility and collective effort, right?
Completely. But when you drop that task-oriented phrasing into a Western HR context,
Yeah.
it drastically misfires.
It just doesn't translate.
Not at all. To an American or British hiring manager I worked on, basically translates to, I was merely present.
Oh, wow. That is brutal.
Right. They are actively listening for a result mindset. They want to hear, I delivered or I achieved.
So it sounds like a really subtle linguistic shift, right? Just swapping out a single verb.
Yeah, but it represents a fundamental psychological difference in how you view your own professional value.
I love that. Think of the task mindset like handing the interviewer a grocery list of raw ingredients.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
You are sitting across the table essentially saying, here's my flour, here are my eggs, here is my sugar.
And you're forcing the hiring manager to do the mental heavy lifting, right?
Exactly. You're making them imagine what you actually built with those ingredients. Whereas the result mindset, that's letting them taste the baked cake. They want the cake.
They definitely want the cake.
They want to know the final delicious outcome of all your hard work.
What's fascinating here is the underlying reason why this matters so much to global companies.
Let's hear it.
Well, they aren't hiring a list of duties. They are hiring a problem solver.
Right.
When a candidate says, I worked on a software update, the interviewer is immediately plagued with doubts, like, do the update succeed? Did it crash the system?
Did you just sit quietly in the back of the development meetings taking notes?
Exactly. But by shifting to, I delivered a software update that increased system efficiency, the candidate instantly becomes the protagonist of a definitive success story.
You completely eliminate the interviewer's doubt.
You do.
We see the agonizing reality of this struggle in our source dialogue with Ivan.
Poor Ivan.
I know, right? He is clearly a brilliant candidate. He knows his engineering field flawlessly. But the language barrier, combined with this cultural pressure, it completely derails his confidence.
It really breaks him down.
Yeah, he actually confesses to Olga, his HR coach, "I'm a mess, I know my field, but in English, my brain completely starts."
The vulnerability in that transcript is palpable, and it highlights a critical danger zone for international applicants. Let's look at the phrase Ivan uses. I'm a mess.
Which means, to ruin something, to fail, or just to be in a state of chaos, to mess something up.
Right. And in many Eastern cultures, expressing extreme humility or even self-deprecation to a mentor figure is a standard way to show respect. It shows willingness to learn.
But doing that in a Western corporate environment is like setting off a giant alarm bell.
It totally triggers a high-risk candidate warning in the HR representative's mind. The corporate communication guides emphasize that confidence is a strict currency in Western business.
So Olga has to step in.
Yeah, Olga immediately redirects Ivan because while admitting you are a mess might be acceptable when you're just, venting to a friend over coffee, bringing that energy into a Google interview is incredibly destructive.
Because you are handing them a narrative of chaos.
Exactly. If you label yourself as a chaotic failure, the hiring panel will simply believe you and move on to the next candidate.
So if you are no longer handing them a grocery list, you have to describe the cake. And you cannot describe an elite world-class cake using average, uninspired adjectives.
No, you definitely cannot.
And once you understand that they want a narrative of success, you need the elite vocabulary to actually deliver it with impact.
The vocabulary must match the magnitude of your achievements. In the coaching dialogue, Olga is very direct with Ivan about this.
She doesn't hold back.
No. She tells him he needs to stop relying on his safe, memorized schoolbook answers. She tells him that companies like Google demand your A game.
That is such a powerful idiom. Bring your A game.
Really is.
It obviously originates from sports, but its application in the boardroom is fascinating. It implies so much more than just doing a good job.
It functions as a psychological signal of elite readiness. In high-level corporate environments, bringing your A game means performing at your absolute peak.
Just showcasing your top-tier skills without any distraction.
Right. It is the language of the final pitch, the executive presentation, the make-or-break moment. By understanding and utilizing this phrase, you are signaling to the interviewer that you comprehend the high-stakes nature of their business.
It tells them you aren't just showing up to play casually. You are stepping onto the court ready to dominate the finals.
Exactly. And Olga doesn't stop there. She pushes Ivan to permanently delete the word good from his vocabulary.
Oh, this was a great tip.
Yeah, she tells him to replace it with stellar.
The word good in Western business English has become almost entirely diluted, hasn't it?
It really has. It sounds passive.
Yeah.
Average. Stellar, on the other hand, carries so much weight. It implies an outcome that is star-like, outstanding or exceptionally brilliant.
It is the ultimate professional upgrade. Just imagine the difference in rhythm and cadence.
It's huge.
Instead of sitting in that glass room and saying, "I managed a good team and we had a good quarter," you look them in the eye and say, "I directed a stellar team to deliver stellar results."
The sophistication of your narrative instantly multiplies. It proves you aren't just mentally translating Russian to English. You are actively wielding the nuances of corporate English.
You are utilizing language to project authority.
And the texts highlight another non-negotiable word for the international candidate: proactive.
Proactive. I feel like you cannot walk within 100 feet of a Fortune 500 company without hearing that word echoing down the hallways. It's absolutely everywhere.
It is ubiquitous for a very specific reason. To be proactive means creating or controlling a situation, rather than just reacting to it after the fact.
Making things happen.
Right. The source material explains that international businesses absolutely crave proactive employees because they represent low management overhead.
That makes total sense.
Hiring managers live in fear of hiring someone who will just sit at their desk waiting for instructions. A proactive employee identifies the fire and puts it out before the boss even smells smoke.
Okay, let me push back on this for a second, though.
Sure, go for it.
If every single candidate who walks through the doors of a tech giant is throwing around massive buzzwords like proactive, stellar, and A-game, doesn't it just become corporate robot speak?
That's a fair question.
And doesn't the interviewer just feel like they are playing buzzword bingo with someone who read a LinkedIn article on the train?
That is a highly critical distinction to make, and the communication texts address this directly. If you simply drop proactive into a sentence as an isolated adjective, yes, it sounds incredibly hollow.
It sounds totally artificial.
It does. But this circles back entirely to the result mindset we established earlier. The buzzword only functions effectively when it is anchored to a concrete, achieved narrative.
So you can't just claim the trait, you have to prove it in the exact same breath.
Exactly the opposite of just saying, I am a proactive person. You structure the narrative by saying, I took a proactive approach to the software bug and delivered a stellar outcome.
Ah, I see.
The action, the delivery, that proves the adjective. The buzzword is simply the framing device for your result.
I love that. The buzzword is the decorative frosting on the cake, but the delivered result is the actual cake itself.
Perfect analogy.
If you try to serve them frosting with no cake underneath, it just tastes overly sweet, artificial, and, ultimately disappointing.
The hiring manager will see you right through it every single time.
Okay, let's get into the reality of the interview room.
Let's do it.
Let's say you have the stellar vocabulary. You have prepared your results-oriented narrative. You are ready to bring your absolute A game.
You are locked in.
Right. But then the interviewer throws a massive curveball question, something you never anticipated. And your brain, despite all the preparation, just completely freezes.
It's the worst feeling.
This is exactly what Ivan is terrified of in the transcript.
And this specific scenario is where the cultural divide becomes a literal chasm. It is one of the most difficult hurdles for international candidates to clear because it deals with the cultural perception of silence.
Ivan's panic loops off the page. He asks Olga, "But what if I need time to think?" You can feel the anxiety of 1,000 interviews in that one single question.
His fear is entirely justified based on his cultural conditioning, though. The sources provide a really deep dive into this phenomenon.
Yeah, break that down for us.
Well, in Russian culture, and within many Eastern educational frameworks, silence following a direct question is overwhelmingly perceived as a negative void.
It's viewed as awkward.
Awkward, uncomfortable, and most dangerously,
Yeah.
as a sign of absolute ignorance. The internal pressure dictates that if you do not begin speaking immediately, you are failing the test in real time.
It feels like every passing second of silence is just a point being deducted from your final score.
Exactly.
So the instinct is to rush in, fill the void with apologies, or start stumbling through broken, unstructured English just to prove you are still awake.
Conversely, Western corporate culture interprets a deliberate, thoughtful pause in a completely different light.
Oh, totally different.
Taking a moment before delivering an answer to a complex question is viewed as a hallmark of executive maturity. It demonstrates that you are actively listening, that you comprehend the gravity of the question, and that you value your own insights enough to formulate them properly before speaking.
This is where Olga introduces the concept of buying time to Ivan, and frankly, mastering this idiom is a total lifesaver for anyone operating in a second language.
Well, 100%. To buy time means to strategically win a brief window to formulate your thoughts or delay an answer without ever appearing flustered, panicked, or out of depth.
You're essentially purchasing a few seconds of silence for your brain's translation matrix to catch up to your mouth.
That's a great way to put it.
The mechanics of how you actually buy that time are fascinating. The communication texts call them conversational greasers.
It's such a descriptive term.
It is. They are these smooth, natural phrases that just keep the gears of the conversation turning without requiring you to actually answer the question yet. Olga gives Ivan a brilliant example to use when he gets stuck. She tells him to say, "That's a stellar question."
It is a masterful deployment of vocabulary under pressure.
Here's where it gets really interesting. How does a simple four-word greaser phrase totally change the power dynamic of the entire interview? Because reading through the breakdown, it's clear this does so much more than just give you 3 seconds to think.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of corporate psychology, that single phrase alters how your fundamental character is perceived in that room.
Right.
When a difficult question hits and you freeze, widen your eyes, and exude panic, you instantly hand all the authority over to the interviewer. You regress into the role of a subordinate student who forgot their homework.
Oh, that's such a visual.
But when you maintain eye contact, lean back slightly, and confidently state, "That's a stellar question," followed by a deliberate pause, you are demonstrating elite emotional regulation.
You are managing the room.
You are proving that you maintain control over yourself, even when the environment becomes unpredictable. In that moment, you shift the dynamic from subordinate and authority to a conversation between two professional peers. You elevate your own status.
It's almost a psychological reset button. You are validating the interviewer because, let's be honest, every executive loves being told they just asked a genius level question which lowers their defenses.
Always.
Simultaneously, you are lowering your own cortisol levels, giving your brain the oxygen it needs to construct that results oriented narrative. It is a brilliant stratagem.
It is a required strategy. Western hiring panels actively want to see how you handle the unknown. Do you crumble into a mess, or do you manage the moment? Utilizing a phrase to buy time is the ultimate proof that you can manage the moment.
Which brings us to the final polish. The moment in the source dialogue where the idioms, the narrative mindset, and the strategic pauses all coalesce into one culturally fluent interaction.
We witnessed this breakthrough for Ivan at the very end of his session with Olga. He processes all of the cultural adjustments, the vocabulary upgrades, and the psychological tactics, and he experiences a profound light bulb moment.
He synthesizes the entire masterclass into one perfect realization. He looks at Olga and says, "So I just need to be more proactive and deliver under pressure."
It is a beautiful encapsulation. He utilizes the high-impact vocabulary, he anchors it to the concept of delivering results, and he acknowledges the reality of the pressure without yielding to it.
And Olga's response to this breakthrough is equally important.
Yes, she doesn't just say yes, she exclaims spot on.
Spot on. That expression carries so much satisfaction when spoken out loud. Let's break down the mechanics of why Olga uses that specific phrase to validate him.
So spot on signifies absolute correctness and perfect accuracy. It originates from the concept of hitting the exact center of a target, like the bullseye on a dartboard.
Right.
But in the context of corporate communication, it is entirely about the tone of delivery.
It's an energy transfer.
Precisely. It is never delivered as a quiet, hesitant mumble. Spot on is an executive stamp of approval. It must be delivered with confident, enthusiastic validation.
She's really affirming him.
Yeah, when Olga says spot on, she is not just grading his answer, she is welcoming him into the peer group. She is acknowledging that he finally understands the rules of the game.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, gearing up for that life-changing interview? We've watched Ivan evolve from a state of chaotic panic, admitting I'm a mess, to delivering a culturally fluent synthesis that earns an enthusiastic spot on from a senior HR specialist.
It's quite the transformation.
The journey between those two states is the entire secret to international corporate success.
This raises an important question for you to consider as you review your own preparation materials. Are you simply trying to memorize English grammar rules to pass a superficial language test? Or are you truly committing to learning how to communicate your professional worth across a massive cultural divide?
Such an important distinction.
Because the sources make it abundantly clear. Those are two very different endeavors, yielding very different results.
It truly is the difference between translating words and translating value. If you only translate the literal words, you walk into Google and hand them a grocery list of your past duties.
Which nobody wants.
Right. But if you translate the value, you hand them the cake.
And the global market only pays for the cake.
Let's distill these elite takeaways so you can integrate them into your own interview strategy today. First, you must aggressively abandon the task mindset. Erase the phrase, "I worked on," from your introduction.
Start feeding the hiring panel the narrative of what you delivered, what you achieved, and how you solved the problem. You must become the active protagonist of your own success story.
Second, you must upgrade your adjectives to match the scale of your ambitions. Do not settle for basic passive vocabulary when you are trying to stand out in a global talent pool. Bring your absolute A game to the pitch.
Delete the word good and replace it with something stellar. Prove to them that you are a proactive force who will reduce their management burden.
And finally, remember the cultural power of the pause. In Western corporate culture, silence is not an enemy. A strategic pause is not a sign of ignorance, and it is not an awkward void that you need to blindly panic fill.
Exactly. Using a conversational greaser to buy time proves your executive maturity. It proves you have the emotional control to navigate high-pressure environments as a peer, not a subordinate.
The most crucial takeaway from all these texts is this. Stepping into an international interview does not require you to fundamentally change who you are as a professional.
No, not at all. You already possess the engineering brilliance, the marketing savvy, or the financial expertise.
The goal is simply translating that existing world-class expertise into a language, a structural format, and a cultural rhythm that the global market instantly recognizes and deeply respects.
Learning the vocabulary is just establishing the baseline. It's just the raw data.
The real mastery, the true art of the interview, is found in your execution when the pressure drops, the room goes quiet, and the machine wants to freeze.
That's where you shine.
So, we will leave you with this final thought to explore on your own. If the modern job interview is no longer just a test of your vocabulary, but a true test of your narrative, wait, let me phrase that without a pause. If the modern job interview is no longer just a test of your vocabulary, but a true test of your narrative, what is the story you are currently telling the world through your silence?